The film begins with Henry and his wife Chantal as they prepare to attend a charity gala organized to raise funds for the victims of the hurricane that struck the island of Puerto Rico some time ago. On that very day, a major festival is also taking place on the island. Since Henry is a prominent lawyer and a well-known public figure, the mayor has chosen him to deliver the keynote speech at the charity event. Before leaving the house, Detective Victor calls Henry, asking to meet him at the station for just 10 minutes before the gala, because Henry had reported the night before that he found the body of a murdered girl in the woods. Henry drives his wife to the venue, drops her off at the entrance, and then heads to the police station. There, Victor and his assistant Owens begin questioning him. Victor asks Henry to recount everything that happened. Henry explains that, as usual, he went jogging the previous evening with his neighbor's dog along the usual track. Suddenly, the dog broke away and ran into the forest, growling strangely. Henry followed it to see what was there, and that's when he found the girl lying on the ground. At first, he thought she was asleep, but when he checked her pulse, he realized she was dead. He went back home, took a shower, and then called the police from his bedroom to report what he saw. Victor then tells him that his neighbor, the dog's owner, testified that Henry did not take the dog with him that day. Henry insists he might have forgotten, but Victor adds that the other neighbors confirmed they hadn't seen him with the dog that evening either. Henry replies, "You know well that I'm a successful and wealthy man. Unlike many rich people, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I built myself up from nothing. I was once one of the island's poor, but I studied and worked hard until I became the richest man here. Everyone envies me, and maybe that's why they're trying to pin a crime on me that I didn't commit." Owens, angry, interrupts, "Enough lies. We examined the crime scene thoroughly and found no sign of any dog near the body." Henry, now visibly tense, admits, "You're talking about last night. Yes, I forgot, I didn't take the dog. I ran into it on the track." Owens lunges at him in anger, but Victor stops him. Henry threatens to sue Owens and turns furiously to Victor, saying, "When you called me, you said we'd talk for only 10 minutes. That's why I came. Now I need to go, I'm giving my speech at the charity event." Victor replies, "Forget the gala for now," pulling out a recorder and saying he'll record their conversation. Henry agrees. Victor begins, "Name, age, and profession." Henry answers, "My name is Henry. I'm 57 years old and a lawyer." Owens asks, "Any hobbies?" Henry says he enjoys photography. Owens sneers, "And I suppose you also enjoy visiting chat rooms to talk to little girls?" Henry retorts defiantly, "That never happened." Ignoring the tension, Victor continues, "You're married, right?" Henry answers, "Yes, to Chantal. We've been married for 10 years. We have no children, she has fertility problems." Then Victor shows him a picture of the girl found in the woods and tells him she was raped and strangled. The killer had redressed her, combed her hair, and left her posed as if peacefully asleep. Victor adds that when Owens visited his house at 6:45 p.m., he noticed that Henry hadn't told his wife about the incident. Henry explains that he and his wife sleep in separate rooms and that his room has its own bathroom. He showered and immediately called the police. They arrived within 15 minutes. He hadn't yet told his wife because they were having marital issues. When asked what the conflict was about, Henry grows angry, "That's personal, none of your business." He adds that his current bedroom used to be their shared room until 2 years ago. It's now about 60 feet from hers, and she forbids him from entering. Yet he still loves her and wishes they could have had a child. Meanwhile, at the charity event, Chantal mingles with guests who clearly dislike her. One woman asks where Henry is. Chantal replies she's waiting for him. Another woman remarks that she saw him entering the police station like a criminal. Chantal ignores the comment and quietly sits alone. Back at the station, Victor tells Henry that another girl, Paulina, aged 12, was murdered in the same way 2 weeks earlier. Her body was found among garbage, positioned identically, and the autopsy revealed she too was raped and strangled, then redressed and groomed. Victor then receives a call from the mayor, who angrily shouts, "How could you arrest him without any evidence?" Victor replies, "I'll make him confess." The mayor warns, "You have 30 minutes. If he doesn't confess, I want him at the gala immediately. No one will donate unless he asks them to." Victor returns to Henry and informs him that 2 patrol officers saw his car parked near the crime scene 2 weeks ago, on the same night Paulina was killed. Henry claims he was visiting Maria, his wife's sister. Owens steps out to confirm this by calling Maria. While Owens is gone, Victor asks, "Why did you go there alone?" Henry says, "My wife hasn't spoken to her sister for a while, so I brought some gifts to reconcile them." When Owens returns, he reports that Henry's story matches Maria's exactly. But Victor presses on, "Why that day in particular?" Henry answers, "Pure coincidence." Victor counters, "Yet your car was found there at midnight, parked right beside the crime scene." Henry says, "I'd had a few drinks, so I parked and sat by the sea for a while, dozed off, then drove home." Neither Victor nor Owens believe him. Henry asks Owens to bring him something to drink. Once Owens leaves, Victor tries to pressure him into confessing, but Henry insists on his innocence and demands to leave. When he opens the door, Owens is standing there. Henry declares, "You have no evidence against me. I'm leaving now, and no one will stop me." Victor replies, "True, there's no evidence, but I'm detaining you on suspicion of the recent murders." He orders Owens to read him his rights. Then Victor tells Owens he's stepping out and instructs him not to speak to Henry, only to guard him. But Owens disobeys, taunting and provoking Henry until he snaps, shouting, "I'm leaving here, and you can't stop me." He storms out, and Owens chases him. They both tumble down the stairs, tearing Henry's suit. At the last moment, Owens restrains himself from hitting him. Meanwhile, Victor arrives at the gala. The mayor asks, "Why didn't you bring Henry?" Victor replies, "Because he's a suspect in 2 rape and murder cases." The mayor demands, "Have you proven anything?" Victor says confidently, "He'll confess very soon." The mayor orders, "You have 10 minutes. Bring him here to give his speech. After that, do whatever you want, but it'll be on your head, and I want no scandal." Victor receives a call from Owens, explaining what happened. Furious, he scolds him for overstepping and orders him to bring Henry immediately. When they arrive, Henry, still furious, tells Victor he won't let Owens' actions go unpunished. Owens insists Henry tried to escape. Victor cuts him off, "From now on, you're off this case." Henry heads toward the stage. When Chantal tries to speak to him, he ignores her and begins his speech. The audience notices his torn suit and his extreme tension. After finishing, Victor escorts him back to the station. There, Victor calls another officer into the office. As this happens, Henry sees his wife sitting in another room with Owens, asking, "How long will you keep my husband here? What exactly is he being accused of?" Henry looks visibly nervous. Victor asks if he wants to speak with his wife privately, but Henry refuses and enters the office. Victor introduces another officer, Castillo, explaining that he'll be videotaping the interrogation. Henry agrees. Then Victor opens a small wooden shutter on the wall, revealing a glass window separating the 2 interrogation rooms, one where Henry sits, and the other where Chantal is. Victor leaves Henry and walks into the room where his wife is sitting. At the police station, Chantal says she wants to see her husband, but Victor tells her that Henry doesn't want to talk to her. She asks, "Then why are you holding him if he's innocent?" Victor replies, "And who told you he's innocent?" He then asks her to tell him about her married life with Henry, but she refuses to speak. Meanwhile, Henry stands on the other side of the glass partition, visibly anxious and tense. At that moment, Victor asks Chantal what she knows about her husband's visit to her sister's house. Surprised, she asks, "When did he visit her?" He answers, "On December 19th, Sunday night, at 9 o'clock. She responds that she didn't know he went to her sister's that day. Victor then asks, "Is your husband jealous of Paco, your brother-in-law?" She replies that she doesn't think so. He asks how Henry behaved when he came home that night, and she says he slammed the door shut, waking her up. When she looked at the clock, it was 3:30 a.m. She went to his room and saw him standing in front of the mirror. When he noticed her, he closed the bathroom door in her face. Victor asks, "Didn't you ask him where he had been?" She replies, "We stopped asking such questions long ago." Victor then tells her that her husband is accused of raping and killing 2 11-year-old girls. Shock spreads across her face, and when Victor asks for permission to search the house, she refuses. Victor leaves her and goes to Henry, who immediately asks, "What did Chantal tell you?" Victor answers that she said he came home at 3:30 a.m., contradicting his claim of returning at midnight. Henry admits he went to a street known for prostitution, where he had sex with a girl in an alley, then went to a bar and drank until 2 a.m., before driving home. Outraged, Victor asks, "How can a respectable lawyer like you sleep with a prostitute in the street?" Henry explains that his wife has refused to be intimate with him for 2 years, and despite his many attempts to reconcile, she always turned him down, leaving him no other choice. Victor asks, "Then why didn't you divorce her?" Henry replies, "Because if I do, I'll lose half my fortune, the villa, the car, the company, and I'm not ready to start over. And besides, there's a more important reason. I still love her." Victor then tells him that a teenage prostitute who works at the same bar he visited on the night of the murder identified him and said she had slept with him several times, and that he always preferred young girls. Ignoring the accusation, Henry pleads, "Please, don't tell Chantal about those affairs." Victor agrees, "All right, but only if you confess." Henry insists, "I never touched those 2 girls. You'll find traces of the real killer on their bodies, and when you analyze them, you'll know I'm not the rapist or the murderer." Victor replies, "You're a clever lawyer, you could have committed the crime without leaving any trace." He presses further, "You must have lured those girls, convinced them to sleep with you, then photographed and killed them." Henry bursts out angrily, shouting, "That's not true." Victor responds, "Do you know what your wife said about you?" Henry, furious, yells, "Liar. I never touched Camille." Victor is startled and asks, "And who is Camille?" When Henry refuses to answer, Victor leaves him and goes back to Chantal. He asks her, "What happened between your husband and Camille?" She answers, "On New Year's Eve, we took gifts and went to visit Maria and her children. Camille, who was 11, was very close to Henry. He went with her to her room to show her the gifts he'd bought. When I entered, I saw him laughing with her, but the way he looked at her was not how a man looks at a child, it was how a man looks at a woman. From that day, I couldn't be around him normally. He tried to convince me he never touched Camille, but I didn't believe him. Since that night, I left our bedroom and started sleeping alone." At this point, Victor again asks Chantal for permission to search the house. Realizing she has no choice, she agrees. Victor, accompanied by Owens and a police team, goes with her to the villa. When they arrive, the officers begin searching. Owens asks Chantal to take him to Henry's photo developing room. As he inspects the photos Henry took, he finds pictures of one of the murdered girls. Chantal is stunned. Owens hands the photos to Victor, and although they appear ordinary, they serve as enough evidence to prove that Henry knew the girl well. Victor tells Henry, "These photos are solid proof against you. Confess that you killed the girls." Henry's expression turns sorrowful and broken, and in a low voice he says, "Yes, I raped them and killed them." Chantal, watching from behind the one-way glass, spits at him in disgust, while even Victor seems disturbed by the confession. Victor begins recounting the details of the crimes, and Henry quietly confirms, "Yes, that's what I did." But then comes the shocking twist. A female officer enters the interrogation room, handing Victor a photo album containing postmortem pictures of the 2 girls. She tells him that a police patrol had stopped a nervous driver, searched his car, found the album inside, and that the man is now downstairs confessing to the murders. At that moment, both Victor and Chantal are filled with deep regret for having wronged Henry, especially Chantal, who realizes she was the reason for his suffering. She leaves the station, walks until she reaches a high hill, and stands at its edge contemplating suicide, but steps back at the last moment. Meanwhile, Victor tells Henry, "I'm sorry for everything that happened. You're free to go." Henry leaves the station, looks around searching for Chantal, and when he finally sees her, she approaches, trying to talk to him. But he ignores her and walks away, clearly determined to divorce her. And thus, the film ends.